What is Yom Hazikaron? Yom Hazikaron is Israel's national day of remembrance. It is a time in which Israel pauses to remember those men and women who have paid the ultimate sacrifice and given their lives for the creation and the sustaining of the state of Israel. It is a very poignant, difficult, emotionally draining day in which, as a country, we pause to remember those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. And truly, there is no family that has not been touched by the events of the many wars and struggles and terrorist attacks that Israel has undergone over the past 74 years of its independence. The question that becomes is, how can we have such a difficult day, Yom Hazikaron, and then all of a sudden the mood changes to Yom Haatzmaut? Why was it that the 2 days are linked together, the sadness and the joy, the mar umatok? And the answer goes back to history. In 1948, the War of Independence was already raging. It did not start when Ben-Gurion declared the state, but it started immediately after the partition plan was voted on in November 1947. At that stage, the Jews had accepted the plan, which for the record, has divided into three: the land of Israel, a Jewish part, an Arab part, and Jerusalem and a corridor which would be part of an international city. The Arabs never accepted this partition plan and went to war. And the skirmishes between the fighters of the Haganah, the pre-state, and the local Arabs morphed into greater and greater battles. It saw thousands of Arabs fleeing and the freeing or the opening of different cities. Borders were being redrawn. In 1948, this continued, and when it was noted that Britain was going to pull out of the mandate on Saturday, the 16th of May, 1948, the question became what to do, to declare a state or not. It was well known that at that stage, the Arab nations that surrounded the Jewish state or pre-Jewish state were ready to attack if Ben-Gurion declared the state of Israel. Ben-Gurion met with his council and was ultimately decided to declare the state. On the 14th of May, 1948, tragedy strikes the Yishuv. Word comes that Gush Etzion, the four southern kibbutzim, as the bulwark protecting the southern entrance to Jerusalem, had fallen. Ben-Gurion knew that these fighters had provided a protection for Jerusalem and kept Jerusalem in Jewish hands at that time. The next day, in the afternoon of Friday, the 15th of May, Ben-Gurion declares the state of Israel. The war would then begin in earnest, with the Arabs invading. At the end of this war, in 1949, 1% of the Israeli population had died in action, over 6,000 soldiers. Ben-Gurion made the following declaration, that the origin of the state were the fighters of Gush Etzion, and we'll always recall them and remember them in our lead up to Yom Haatzmaut. And thus Yom Hazikaron began primarily as a reminder and remembrance to the fighters of the Gush. Later, it became incorporated as the day of the Yom Hazikaron, the day of remembrance of every single Jewish man and woman who fought and fell in battle for the behalf of the state. Yom Hazikaron has now been expanded to include also those victims of Arab terror. And on the day of Yom Hazikaron, ceremonies are held throughout Israel, at kibbutzim, at towns, at synagogues, in which the names of the loved ones are read out. On Israeli radio and Israeli TV, so slow songs are played, called songs of Shchol, sad songs, and people reflect and remember the loved ones. Biographies of soldiers are played through those 24 hours. And in the morning, at the graveside of every Israeli soldier, there stands a soldier at attention, that the one who has paid the sacrifice will never be forgotten. And at 11 o'clock, the siren echoes throughout the land of Israel as a nation pauses to remember those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Because the state of Israel did not come into our hands easily. When we're walking in the state enjoying the falafel, we might think to ourselves, this is fantastic. But we understand the sacrifice that was paid. Yom HaZikaron reminds us of the price that is paid to have an independent Jewish state. And last week, on Yom HaShoah, we are reminded of the price that we pay for not having one. A meaningful Yom HaZikaron.